Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Weird World Podcast. We don't have a little intro because this is the part 2 of the two-parter about the 67 exorcisms of Anneliese Michel.
Okay, I was trying to sign that with her, but you don't read lips.
I was thinking the Emily Rose.
No,
I was going to call her Anneliese Rose.
We will mention that, but no.
And I knew that was incorrect.
Please don't call her that.
Nope.
Have some respect, especially after what we found out happened to Anneliese Michel. So in part 1, here's the recap.
I'm pretty upset about it.
You should be. Anneliese Michel was brought up in this super religious family, and they had this kind of sense of martyrdom. Like they needed to sacrifice for others because they had done evil. Their evil was having a child out of wedlock in 1948.
But wait, say this is also Germany.
In Bavaria. When she was 16, 17 years old, Anneliese began having seizures. And in those seizures, she'd have these kind of trance-like states. And folks were very concerned. They took her to the doctors. The neurologist said, okay, you have temporal lobe epilepsy. And they put her on meds to treat this and eventually to treat the seizures. But also, eventually, she was taking medication to treat what became a serious mental illness. As she started having hallucinations, she was hearing voices, all kinds of things, probably even beyond the epilepsy, although we'll talk about that in a minute. It's surprising what kind of symptoms can be caused by that.
Well, you did say hallucinations.
Yes. So the family, of course, sees these voices and these hallucinations as, they're going to interpret that through their hyper-religious Catholic way, and they saw it as demonic possession. They eventually were able to convince a priest who petitioned his bishop to be able to conduct an exorcism, and they're granted this. They're allowed to conduct this exorcism. They didn't do just one. Over the next 10 months, they conducted 67 grueling exorcisms of Anneliese as she just steadily deteriorated and got worse and worse and worse. We played the audio recordings. She was speaking these terrible growls. She would come to say that she had 6 different demons inside possessing her, including like famous, Nero and Hitler, and even Lucifer himself, the big guy, was inside of her.
Which literally sounds like a satire of an exorcism movie.
A little bit, yes. And as she gets worse and worse and worse, the priests continue their exorcism, and they never do call in any medical help whatsoever. In fact, these exorcisms were explicitly conducted in secret. And she died finally in September of 1975. And that's where we left off. So we are now going to talk about the trial, because this became a cause célèbre within first Bavaria, and then throughout Germany, it became a huge national story. What happened to Anneliese? It leaked out. She died, of course, but what led to her death came out fairly quickly and spread across the country.
Did you say what year it was that she died?
1975.
75, okay.
Mm-hmm. And so the government in Germany and the state of Bavaria were forced to look into the matter as this attention started to spread. So the next year, in 1976, the Bavarian state authorities began, I think, officially looking into the case. But it wasn't until the spring of 1977 that they actually brought criminal charges against the 2 priests who had conducted the exorcisms. Those were Ernst Alt and Arnold Renz. Renz was the one who was Alt was the one who was kind of the local priest that they first convinced, yes, she really is demonically possessed.
Yeah.
Renz was the sort of exorcism expert that the bishop assigned to conduct these exorcisms. And I think he did most of the talking, most of the rituals. State authorities also brought charges against Anneliese's parents, Joseph and Anna. The charges that they brought for all 4 was negligent homicide.
Right.
So, strangely, though, the state sort of telegraphed its wish that none of the defendants would actually ever be put in prison for this crime that they are accusing them of and indicting them on. Negligent homicide is not just, by the way, sort of making a mistake that caused someone's death. It has to include acting recklessly in a way that a rational person would know would result in something very dangerous or something, a harm could come to the person that, that they're involved with.
Which sounds fitting in this case.
It's not manslaughter like that. It's much more serious than that. But it turns out, I looked at it, I don't know exactly the laws and the sentences for Germany in the 1970s at this time, but typically it doesn't involve a significant jail term, like usually just a handful of years, 2-3 years or something like that is the norm. You do most likely serve jail time for negligent homicide, but not a lot. I think that was the law of the land in Germany at the time as well. So it's a serious charge. It's a felony. And they were charging with this thing. A young woman did die.
Yeah.
But like I said, from the outcome, I'm sorry, from the beginning, they're saying basically we don't want them to be punished that harshly.
Yeah.
I found that very strange.
Well, also, they only charged the 2 priests, right?
No, the parents.
Oh, okay. I thought you said they only charged the priests and not the parents.
It's great to see Carrie's paying close attention. She already asked 2 things right after I said those things. What year you asked? Yes, what year it was. 30 seconds after I said what year it was, and now. So that's good. That's good. No, great job. Thank you. Are you tuned out?
I have auditory dyslexia.
So instead of even a short sentence for inflicting this agonizing ordeal on Anneliese that resulted in her death. And remember, she was a clearly very ill and mentally troubled young woman. The prosecutors recommended that the priest would be fined, and that's it.
Wow.
And that Anneliese's parents should receive no punishment whatsoever because, quote, they had suffered enough, end quote.
I hate that.
Some of the worst words in the justice system anywhere in the world. It never makes sense. There's no such thing. You did this to her.
Mm-hmm.
You have not said, yes, it's horrible your daughter died. You caused her death. Very directly in this case, whether you believe she was demonically possessed or not, you did.
And if you suffered, you caused your own suffering too.
Yeah. So that whole suffered enough is preposterous.
Yeah.
Joseph and Anna, the parents. Carrie's going to ask me what their names were in about 90 seconds.
I could have sworn last episode you said the priests were charged and not the parents. So I already had it in my head. So I probably wasn't paying that close attention.
I did make a mistake last episode, by the way, and I'll correct this now and later. She didn't have 3 brothers. I think I said 3 brothers. She had 3 sisters, not younger sisters, not
that
Martha.
Literally
I think
changes
I said brother.
Everything.
It does not change anything whatsoever.
Changes everything.
We literally mentioned it one time, and we're going to mention it one time more in this episode. So no, Carrie. Nice try, though.
Whatever.
Nice try. So Joseph and Anna. Who are Joseph and Anna, Carrie?
Her parents.
Awesome. She's paying attention now.
And I know their last name is Michel.
Michel.
Which is a weird name for German people.
It is. I thought the same thing, too.
It's a French last name.
It's Bavaria, too, so it's not like it's Alsace-Lorraine area, which is kind of a mixture. But they hired this very prominent, kind of famous attorney named Erich Schmidt-Leichner. Schmidt-Leichner had, in part, made a name for himself by defending Nazi war criminals.
Nice.
So, class act. The Vatican supplied the lawyers for the 2 priests and paid for them. On March 30th of the next year, it's now 1978, the trial began in district court, criminal court, I guess. I don't know what they call it in Germany. It was, by this time, kind of almost a national obsession, and it even drew international media attention. There's a New York Times article that announced the indictment, essentially, in 1977.
Yeah.
At the time. So it became quite...
It is very sensational.
It is.
It makes sense.
She died while being by official Catholic priest. No rogue anything. These are actually, the Vatican said, you can do it. Well, the bishop did. And said, you could do this. And she died over this horrific 10-month ordeal. The trial was pretty extraordinary. You effectively had the prosecution having to make the case that Anneliese was not possessed by the devil, of course, and which is a perfectly rational assertion, right? So they introduced a bunch of doctors and things like that, and mental health professionals, and they testified, okay, we understand Anneliese's state of mind at the time. You don't have to have demonic possession to explain her actions and her thoughts and what she did and all those noises and those growls and those profanities that she did, profanities that she spoke. They said basically she was just this very troubled young woman, and she had this temporal epilepsy, which can be explained as the cause of just about everything that she did. And it was known to cause hallucinations, and even specifically of a religious variety. And again, we'll get to that in just a bit.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And otherwise, they pointed to her very, very religious upbringing to explain how she channeled this into this idea of demonic possession. The defense argued on 2 fronts. One was religious freedom. The parents believed, and then they have religious freedom is codified in the German Constitution, which of sort. And so the parents believed that Anneliese was possessed by the devil, and that an exorcism was the right way for them to respond to that given their religious beliefs. So therefore is protected by freedom of religion.
Well, I disagree. Maybe, maybe not. They also believed in medical science because they did have her treated by medical professionals earlier.
Yes.
So,
but you can believe in both. There's no reason you can't.
Exactly.
You can say,
Yes,
basically,
you can.
They'd say, hey, you medical guys, you do what you can, and we'll also approach this on a religious front and see what they can do about it. In fact, if you remember, the medications didn't work for about over 5 years. Those medications never really worked for her and never made her healthy. And so they kind of gave up on medical science at this point and went to...
That's their bad. You don't give up on medical science because something stops working.
Well, the defense also effectively... we can go on to that forever, obviously. I don't disagree with you, but you know, I could see from their point, our religion says we do an exorcism here, and our religion is protected.
And what's your favorite saying? Porque no los dos.
Porque no los dos?
Porque no los dos. Is that what it is?
I don't know. This Jack's thing.
Why not do both?
Oh, they did do both. They
stopped doing both.
You're right. They did.
They should have continued doing both.
Well, once you start the exorcism, you know. Well, I'll actually mention of why they. Well, we'll see. I'll talk about that in just a minute.
Okay.
The defense's second front of argument was effectively that Anneliese really had been possessed by demons. They kind of had to argue that, didn't they? I mean, they didn't have to, but they chose to, and they did. And they stood their ground on that. To support this, they played a bunch of those tapes. We listened to a little bit of them. They played a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
There were like over 70 tapes of the priest recording things during these 67 exorcisms. You know, remember the screams, the growling, these guttural rants and threats coming from Anneliese. And they argued, you know, that's not her. That's something inside of her. Essentially, she's possessed. They explained the whole thing. They explained about the 6 demons that were self-identified by Anneliese herself as being inside of her body or inside of her human form. And on these tapes, you can hear the demons almost like arguing with one another. I don't know if the defense played all of the tapes. If they did, they probably made a mistake. That the prosecution may have played some of the tapes. I don't know for sure. But on these tapes, you can hear these demons sort of argue and debate one another and argue with the priest, usually Renz, about all kinds of religious things. But they argued that, just that's not her. She would never shout these obscenities. She doesn't sound like that. That's not Anneliese speaking. Yeah. That's demons. They explained it's Lucifer, it's Cain, it's Judas Iscariot, it's Adolf Hitler, it's Nero, and I forget the name of that disgraced priest that no one ever heard of. Those are the 6 demons inside of her. In the end, they even claimed that they had chased the demons from Anneliese's body, but sadly, she did not withstand the battle and she died. So the priest actually said overtly, we did our job. We were successful.
Yeah.
Just before she died, the demons were gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, don't blame us. The people in the court were transfixed. Again, it was a very, very a huge story. People would line up to get into the court and get the limited space to actually witness it during the proceedings. People were, stunned and shocked by hearing these things. It really transfixed the country. These recordings became huge, huge media coverage. At one time, one of Anna's sisters just started sobbing and had to flee from the court when she was listening to her sister. I think for the most part, it was the priest and the parents who were in the room. Often, I think just the priest.
Yeah.
Her younger siblings, I'm sure, were not allowed. There. So they're listening to this for the first time. They're hearing their horribly suffering sister say these things and the sounds coming out of her.
But they lived with her. They probably heard her.
I don't think.
Did she only do this during the exorcism?
I don't know for a fact, but I think so.
Oh, wow. Okay, then.
Which would make sense, wouldn't it? Because there is recordings of her during the 10-month period of her sounding completely normal and rational and talking. So it wasn't always the demons coming out. Now, I don't know. Did the demons come out when the priests weren't there from 1 to 4 hours a day during their sessions? So I don't know for a fact the demons never came out. Yeah. I don't get the sense that they did though.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
It is. I would not put any weight on that because I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
Father Renz sat very impassively throughout the trial for the most part. He was the main exorcist, but Father Alt, he was a local priest who first believed the Michels. He was just like constantly whispering and talking to his lawyers, like to challenge everything, like saying, that's bullshit, kind of a thing. Probably didn't use those words. but he was constantly involved and constantly challenging anything the prosecution said. Joseph Michel, her father, was very stoic. He had to listen to what was saying, I guess, with the help of a hearing device, because he was hard of hearing by this time. He was 60 years old now by 1978 when the trial was being conducted. His wife, Anna, was 57. She took notes constantly. And she would just sit there and silently scribble notes all throughout the trial, except one time when a prosecution doctor made the case that Anneliese, her daughter, had suffered from a mental disorder, not a demonic disorder. Anna groaned, "Oh, dear God," and then went right back to her silent, quiet note-taking after that. So I'm not even sure what she meant, but she would always be convinced that her daughter was demonically possessed. Both priests took the stand, which is weird. So I looked it up, and yes, in German law, you can refuse to testify. Like you don't call it plead in the fifth, but effectively you can refuse to testify. But they both did. I don't know why. I think they just, I don't know. I don't know if the lawyer said, yeah, we can get we'll put priests up in the stand. That can't hurt.
Yeah.
Father Alt was very conciliatory. Remember, he was the one who was whispering, so it's odd. He was challenging things with his lawyers, but on the stand, he was kind of conciliatory, and he still was very firm that he believed she was possessed by a demon, but he was sorry for what happened. And a prosecutor at one point asked him, why hadn't they ever called for medical help?
Yeah.
Even as her condition worsened. Remember, she was down to about 70 pounds or something like that. I mean, she's just clearly in terrible health, especially toward the end. He quietly explained that he just never thought she was so sick that her life was in any danger.
That defies all logic.
It does. It does, but you kind of have to say that, don't you?
Yeah.
If you want to protect yourself. He said that, oh my gosh, if I thought she was really in danger, I would have for sure, of course, called a doctor. Which, remember, they did not.
Yeah.
This again, all those exorcisms were conducted in complete secrecy from everyone, and specifically also her doctors and medical providers. Remember that Anneliese was a nearly a skeleton by the end. She was not eating or drinking. Anybody not eating, you have to know, is in physical danger.
Yeah.
She couldn't walk under her own power. Remember, she's black and blue with bruises and those dark black eyes. Her whole body, those sunken black eyes. And as she's doing these horrible voices of 6 different demons.
Wait, I have a question. Are there pictures of her online?
Yes, there are.
We're not going to post them.
Well, we should post some. They're not great. I mean, at least to show that the physical shape that she was in.
That's what I don't want to post.
Well, I mean, so I would argue that if Anneliese was delusional, she wasn't the only one in the room who was.
Yeah.
If Father Art really thought that she wasn't in danger given her condition, he was pretty delusional himself.
Yes.
Father Renz was much more confrontational on the stand, or at least he was very self-righteous. He was sure about his cause. He was asked why they had not called for medical help as well, and he answered, quote, "The exorcism ritual expressly states that the clergymen should not burden themselves with medical matters," unquote. So in other words, you're not supposed to worry about the health of the victim. That's not your reason for being there. I looked it up. This is true. It really does state that the church is apparently more concerned with banishing devils than is with saving sinners. Because that's crazy.
So then just kill her or just let her die.
You're going, effectively you can.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't literally kill her, but if they die, they die. Your whole point there is to banish that devil.
But I mean, if she dies, then the demons no longer have her as their host. So they don't have a vested interest in keeping her alive. Especially should they fail.
Yeah. Kind of sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm going further than negligent homicide.
Oh, okay. Gary's getting serious. Father Renz, he also kind of tried to shift some of the blame as well. He told the court that he had written to Bishop Joseph Stangl, that's the bishop who called him in, that Father Alt appealed to, and that Renz said he told the bishop in these notes of Anneliese's worsening physical condition, and that he got no response whatsoever, just crickets back from the bishop's office. That's what Renz claimed. Stangl and his secretary, Father Roderick, both said that they never received any kind of notes from Renz. In fact, Renz, they claim that they had basically no contact whatsoever with all Wrens throughout the entire 10 months of these nonstop exorcisms.
That's a meaningless fact.
It is.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's kind of a
your
he said, he
actions
said
are your
thing.
actions.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter.
Well,
even if what he's saying is true.
Yeah.
I wrote him a letter. So what?
True. One source I read, by the way, said that there were multiple letters between Stengel and the exorcist, but I'm not clear if that was during the exorcism. It could have been afterwards. So I don't know which one is telling the truth there, but you're right. You're right. It doesn't matter. Ren sees her every other day or every few days or so. He sees how bad it's getting. So you don't write, hey, Bishop, what should I do? You know what to do.
Exactly. Yes.
Still, for many, this whole thing brought up kind of a little unsettling situation. A lot of people were accusing the state authorities of essentially protecting the really high up clergy, like a Bishop Stengel, and other, church officials who had allowed this to happen or knew about this happening, and that they were being protected. A lot of people in Germany thought they were being protected. So it caused kind of a religious controversy at the time.
Yeah.
For his part, Stengel said that he had no idea how much Anneliese had physically deteriorated until after she was dead. And he also said he didn't know how poor her health was before the exorcism even started.
Yeah.
So remember, she was in not good shape. She was highly mentally disturbed before the exorcism even started. As we noted earlier, that he had essentially just, Father Alta had written him and said, here's what's going on. And he had done no independent research of it on his own whatsoever to verify anything. He said, okay, rubber stamped it.
I mean, if I believed in demonic possession, my assumption would be there has been some negative effects on the victim's physical health.
For sure.
From being possessed by demons.
At the very least, how are they able to throw up so much pea soup colored vomit and still have more to go? I don't understand. How that implies that they're eating a lot. And as we know, Anneliese was not eating a lot, but Linda Blair apparently was. Regan. Regan? Is that her name?
Yeah.
She was eating a lot because she was throwing up a ton, mostly on the priest's vestments.
Yeah.
And by the way, these statements from Bishop Stengel, they did not happen at the trial. This all came after the trial because the bishop was never called in to testify. Not only was he not indicted, he was never called in to even testify. So there does seem to have some kid gloves with respect to high up church officials.
I mean, I don't necessarily think they should have been indicted.
They allowed it to happen. They gave explicit permission for it to occur and did not verify anything or insist on medical people being present or anything like that whatsoever. So they bear, I would argue they bear some responsibility.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I believe that or not.
But it seems that Bishop Stengel kind of learned his lesson a little bit because afterward he said that for any future requests or for exorcisms, he would only approve them if there was a medical doctor present throughout the process.
Well, there you go.
So it cost Anneliese her life, but he did learn some lesson. Yeah. In the end, the medical experts at the trial said that Anneliese had died from her epilepsy, combining with the hyper-religious household and her psychosis to cause her to this belief in possession that ultimately led to her death. Of course, technically she starved to death and died of dehydration, but essentially this is the argument they're making. They're making kind of a holistic argument. They brought in this professor from Würzburg University, and he said it was, quote, a spiritual sickness and heavy psychic disturbance.
Well, honestly, sure. But would she have died if she was eating and drinking?
Yeah.
No, she wouldn't have.
I agree.
I'm not saying weird. She would have had a happy, high quality life.
Yeah.
Unless she had been successfully treated.
I read that and it almost didn't sound much better than what the priests were saying.
It sounds like they're kind of agreeing with how...
Well, we'll talk in a minute about what really happened. And there is this idea that it was neither medical nor demonic, which I think is a little weird. And it seems like some of these experts who testified at the trial kind of agreed with that. Because they should have just focused, no, she started it because of the things you were doing.
Yeah.
In part because of the things you were doing.
Yeah.
Ultimately, as I said, Anneliese essentially starved to death, and medical experts testified that her death could have been prevented up to about a week before she died. I don't know why they think the last week she was unrecoverable, but almost toward the end there, if they had called someone in, they could have saved her.
Yeah.
At least that's what the medical experts testified at the trial. The trial concluded in April of 1978, and the 2 priests were convicted or not, guilty or not guilty.
2 priests. 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 2 pr Guilty.
Guilty. Negligent homicide. So naturally, the priests were sentenced to suspended sentences.
Of course.
Keep your nose clean, Father, they kind of said. And, don't get any more trouble and you'll stay out of the penitentiary. I guess that's suspended sentences, right? That they are hanging over your head. But what do they have, a parole officer? I don't know.
Yeah, probably not.
They were also ordered to pay some of the costs of the trial. Those sentences, believe it or not, as I kind of alluded to at the beginning, were more significant, more serious than requested by the prosecution. The prosecution wanted to have just basically a small fine,
right?
And that's it. So the judge, there's a 3-judge panel, by the way. It wasn't a jury, it was a 3-judge panel. The judge panel went beyond in terms of punishing the priest than the state prosecutors had asked for, but still, I would argue, a more or less a slap on the wrist.
Uh-huh.
The parents were also declared guilty by the 3-judge panel, but they were completely unpunished. So in that case, they listened to the prosecution and said, we're not doing anything, not even a fine, nothing whatsoever.
They've suffered enough.
Yeah,
of rationale.
Yeah, exactly. For their part, by the way, Anneliese's parents did not fully agree with the priest. They fully believed that their daughter was possessed by demons, but they believed that the demons were still in her when she died. The priest said, yep, hey, we were successful on that 67th one, and the demons had left just before they died. How they thought they know that, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The parents said, no, we don't think she ever escaped her possession.
Did she die in the presence of the priest?
No. Remember, she was found by her mom about 8 a.m.
Okay.
The day after her last exorcism.
Okay.
The morning after. So she died sometime during the night.
Okay.
Anneliese Michel. Was Anneliese Michel really possessed by 6 demons that may or may not have ever left her body? We can answer that sort of rationally, or we can even use the Catholic Church's own criteria for determining whether someone is possessed and judge whether we think Anneliese Michel was possessed. So I choose B.
I choose A.
Okay.
I know the answer.
But you overruled because I'm doing this one, and I choose B.
Oh, dang it.
So we're gonna look. We're gonna take a look at have you ever thought about this? There are hard and fast. Here are some things to look for if you think your friend or family member is possessed by a demon.
What do you think
or 6
is my answer if I've ever thought about that?
Have you?
No.
I kind of have. Did they I wonder if any of those exorcism movies, I haven't seen most of those exorcism movies except, of course, The Exorcist. I don't know if I've seen any. I think I've seen 1 or 2 of the other ones, but do they ever go over that? Like, hey, check, no, check, no. I don't know. We're not sure if she's possessed. Have ever gone over that? I imagine somebody has somewhere in some
Is
portrayal.
it like you have to say yes to 5 of these out of 10?
Kind of, maybe.
Okay.
So for that, we need to turn to the Roman ritual. And this clearly lays out some of the signs of actual, true, legitimate demonic possession in a human. The list can vary, but there's a few of the big ones here. I'm going to go over them. Sometimes, by the way, it depends on the kind of demon who's possessing you and what they're trying to achieve, and that to determine what signs you're going to exhibit. Apparently, so there's some wiggle room here for the priest. So keep that in mind. But here are some of the key signs. 1, the possessed using languages no one understands. I think essentially that's speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
Number 2. Exhibiting amazing inhuman strength or physical feats. 3.
I don't think Anneliese did.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about one by one.
Okay.
If you want.
Okay.
That's okay. Number 3, knowledge of some event the possessed victim could not know about. Number 4, showing an aversion to holy objects like crucifixes, or sometimes the possessed will do, awful things to crucifixes, as we know from the documentary The Exorcist, or to things like holy water, an aversion to holy water, or to any kind of Catholic churchy things. That's another sign of yep, you're possessed, bro.
Yeah.
Number 5, committing acts of self-harm or violent and aggressive behavior. Number 6, having some kind of ailment or sickness that cannot be diagnosed or treated by normal medical techniques. Number 7, hallucinating or hearing voices. You probably already noticed a pattern of these. Number 8, exhibiting a sudden change in behavior or personality. Number 9, something called, quote, sudden spiritual dryness, end quote. Not 100% sure what that is. I don't think it's the same as feminine dryness that you see the commercials about occasionally. I think it is...
Where you kind of go away from the church.
I guess. It sounds bad, though. I hope it's not... It might even be contagious. I don't know. It sounds like it could be. Number 10, expelling little animals or just any kind of object from some part of your body. Thankfully, I think almost always from your mouth. That's another sign of you are possessed. So if a little black frog comes out of your mouth, boom, you're probably.
I was thinking Mary Toft and the Bunnies. I'm surprised
Mary
she
Toft and the
didn't
Bunnies.
get accused of demonic possession.
She might have. That's not a bad. Yeah, that is interesting. Although they weren't coming from her mouth.
Exactly.
If you know what I'm saying. What you might have noticed, though, pretty quickly is that most of these are not at all difficult to fake.
Yes.
Clearly. Anyone can pretend to speak in tongues, for instance, for the first one, don't you think? In fact,
of course.
I've heard it. I've seen it. We're going to play you one here in just a second, that there are like fundamentalist priests out there pretending to do this kind of thing all the time. They're all over YouTube. Here's an example. So, I mean, I'm convinced that sounds like a real legitimate language to me.
It
I
is
think
the silliest thing
to
ever.
everyone else it did too. So, I mean, yes, it's not hard. There, it's a language. I'm speaking in tongues. I must be possessed, kind of thing. Or very much in the Pentecostal and kind of evangelical world, is more like God, Holy Spirit, is inhabiting me, to giving me this ability to speak tongues. The Catholics see that more of a sign of demonic possession.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you're both just awful.
If I was a member of a religion where this was ever a thing, I can't imagine continuing on with my faith.
Well,
after
if you saw a priest speak in
particular
tongues while you were at church, I think you'd feel the Spirit in you, Carrie. I don't know. I think you might change your mind then. By definition, the language is not recognizable. So, sort of prove it's not a real language. No, I don't have to. So you have to prove it is a real language. So no. So that first one, very easy to fake. How about knowing things that you should not know? That's a little bit more difficult to do.
But also prove that the person didn't know.
You
couldn't know.
Who are we to say that you could not have found out whatever secret you divulged in by some other normal means?
Yeah.
I mean, so-called psychics do that all the time. That's their stock in trade. So who knows what's going on there with the demonic possessed person who knows this stuff? Maybe they're doing a cold reading on the priest. I don't know. Seriously, possibly. Obviously, some of these others, anyone can pretend to be like repulsed by holy objects.
Yes.
Oh, a crucifix. Oh, this is burning me. Show me the actual burn.
Yes.
Anyone can harm themselves, right? Anneliese had signs of stigmata on her palms, cuts and scratches on her palms, which is supposedly the sign of Jesus because he was nailed to the cross. Of course, in all the Christian iconography, they show Jesus nailed to the cross on his palms. Famously, that's physically impossible. They'd rip out. He would have had to be nailed. You crucified someone by nailing through his wrist. So it just turns out all the Christian iconography that shows Jesus with his palms and all the stigmata that follows that is physically impossible.
Yeah.
Well, that's another story. Let's just give him the benefit of the doubt there. Obviously, it would not be hard to scratch yourself to find anything sharp and give yourself some cuts on your palms, which are very soft. So that's fairly easy to do, and certainly she would have been motivated to do something like that, given her upbringing. Anyone can, that's the other one. What ailments can't be treated by medical science? I don't know but what does that mean?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
she's got boils. Well, it can be treated, or whatever she has.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they test for that. I'm not even sure that's even ailments. It's not clear to me what that means exactly. I mean, it could be fibromyalgia. Can medical science fix that? No, it can't. It's not real, but it still can't fix it.
Cancer.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't know how they measure this,
Yeah.
but it seems to give them a lot of wiggle room to say, oh, well, she had these things that medical science couldn't treat it.
Yeah.
You probably didn't let medical science try to treat
Well,
it.
I think it also means things that medical science can't explain.
Maybe so.
More
You're
so
probably
than
right.
can't treat it. Yeah.
But like hallucinations and hearing voice is another one of the ones we said, okay, again, that's incredibly easy. Oh my God, I just heard a voice. There. Yeah. I did it. I just did it right now. I may be possessed by a demon right now as we speak, Carrie. It's possible.
Or it's due to a mental illness.
It's very true. In this case, for sure it was. There is this change in behavior. Okay. Well, again, none of these things are sort of testable things. You notice that? It's too easy. And And I don't even know what spiritual dryness is, so I don't know how to respond to that. But I will say this: expelling objects or animals out of your mouth.
We know that didn't happen.
That takes some real 19th century spiritual skills. So I'm actually pretty impressed by that one. If people are really doing that while they're possessed, again, not super hard to fake, but that shows commitment at least.
If people are doing this, they got a hold of this list, or somebody told them what the things are, or yeah.
Well, you might have noticed that I skipped one.
How would I notice that?
If you really do show extraordinary strength and feats of superhuman strength, that's a thing. That's legit. I do not personally know, and I've done a fair amount of research into exorcisms. We've covered exorcisms before on this show. I've looked into others as well, many others. I don't know of any where this was clearly shown, where any of the supposed possessed victims clearly showed something that was physically impossible for them to do. No one's tossing priests out of windows.
Or levitating.
Or picking up the bed or something like that and spinning it on their finger like a Harlem Globetrotter. No one's doing something that just could not be done.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know, but if you do see those things, that would be, I'm not saying to be a sign of demonic possession. There is likely potentially other causes, but that would be, at least that'd be impressive. I don't know of any case where it really happened.
Yeah.
So then ask, did Anneliese really show any of these signs? She did not speak any strange language. For instance, if she was really possessed by Judas Iscariot, she should have been able to speak Aramaic, which he did. She did not.
Yep.
She did throw out a little bit of Latin. I don't know if it's Nero's Latin, but she threw out a little bit of Latin. But she knew Latin. And she learned Latin in all of her, both at school where they taught Latin,
and
where they
church.
literally learned Latin, and at church. So not super impressed by knowing a language that we know she knew.
And what language would Cain have spoken?
Cain would have spoken something. Adolf Hitler would have spoke German, and that priest guy would have spoke German. That's convenient.
Yeah.
Cain, I don't know.
But definitely not German.
No, it didn't exist yet.
Yep.
He was like the second dude. So on the third, I'm not positive. So once Father Renz, though, did pose a question to Anneliese in Chinese, sort of to test her. So he was doing kind of his job. He was testing her.
How did he know Chinese?
I don't know. Maybe he just looked it up and he's like reading it. And he's doing like a super racist accent probably.
Yeah.
She answered, quote, "If you want to ask me something, ask it in German." And then she followed up in classic style. But I understand that. I love that. That's a tell, by the way. When she deflects it and says, "But I could have." And she did that multiple times. She deflected some things that she clearly was uncomfortable answering. She kind of deflected and changed to a different topic, kind of thing.
Although I don't know why they'd expect demons to know Chinese.
Well, they know, that's a sign. That's one of the signs. You know a language you shouldn't know.
Yeah.
So I've seen that in those cases. It's been brought up in some cases of exorcism as that I've read about, but also in cases of reincarnation.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, they couldn't have known. They didn't know Hindi.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. So Anneliese, for someone possessed by some really bad people from history, she also seemed extremely concerned about the kind of modern minutiae of Catholic religious practices.
Yeah.
These demons debated endlessly about some of the things that came out of the Second Vatican Council, which had ended in 1965 and ushered in a little bit of liberalization within the Catholic Church. Some of the quotes from those 6 awful, God-hating, presumably anti-Catholic demons included, quote, "In church, all too few pray because the priests think it unfashionable." Another quote, "The communion rails must go back in. Priests must be recognizable as priests. They also may not get married." End quote. And on the last one is, quote, "Holy water should come back in the homes and the crucifix should return to its place of honor in homes." End quote.
Okay.
Really? Demons are advocating the church to return to doing things that would for sure harm their own demonic interest. That makes absolutely no sense. They are perfectly aligned with Anneliese's beliefs and the concerns of her and her family. They were these really conservative Christians. They were very anti Vatican II. So it's, that's very, very, very fishy to say the least. It's like the manager of a baseball team and his players, he knows his players can't hit curveballs. Tell the other team, you guys should throw a lot more curveballs. It just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And plus, it's just weird minutia. It's like, really? That's what demons are talking about? don't they have like hell stuff to do? Reports that, how many souls have you got this quarter? Those kind of things. I would think they've got better things to do than talk about little tiny local Catholic stuff. I don't know. Father Renz, to his credit, though, he also tried to test Anneliese another way. He one time we just mentioned the speaking in Chinese thing. Well, he also did a little test with holy water. He got like 5 containers, I guess, apparently identical and unmarked. Actually, 10, I guess, right? And he filled 5 with holy water and 5 just regular old tap water. And then I don't know exactly what he did, but he presented them to Anneliese, and she, quote, reacted, end quote, only to the holy water, according to Father Renz.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we have no way of knowing were there any, controls, so to speak. Could she have, seen him filling them up? Could a family member have seen them filling it up and signaled to Anneliese? Very possible. I don't know. We don't know what went on. So that's a point in their favor, according to Father Renz, but it's a fairly weak one because we just don't know what the situation really was.
Also, each time she had a 50-50 chance of guessing whether or not it was holy water or not.
Yeah, and let's remember, Father Renz is on trial for negligent homicide, and a key part of his defense was that Anneliese really was possessed by demons, or at least they had good reason to believe that she was. So he's naturally going to say things that indicate she may have really been possessed by demons. That's just, let's be honest. It's not just because a priest doesn't mean he doesn't lie, as we know.
Yes.
At the beginning of the exorcism, Anneliese supposedly refused all medical treatment, and she asked her parents and the priest to stop talking to any doctors and trust purely in the efficacy of the exorcisms. So remember, I said I'd mention that later on. That's what supposedly happened. So they were asked by their own patient to not do anything medical ever again. I'm all about the exorcism from here on out. Okay. Now, I don't know. It's not clear who said this. Was it Anneliese under her own power, or was it one of the demons saying that? And of course, they would say something like that. I don't know. Apparently the priest and the family thought it was her.
Again, I'm not listening to my child.
No.
Even if they're 23.
I'm just going to quote you on that. I'm not listening to my child. I'm going to tell your children that you said that.
If they clearly need medical attention.
Yeah. But it's also, that you can see as another convenience given the fact that they are on trial.
Yes.
It's right. They were asked, why didn't you give medical help? And to be able to say, our patient asked us not to provide a medical help, and we agree, so we did it at her request. That's something of a defense. And even if it was a demon who said this, why are the demons urging the priest to do the thing that is most likely to work against their own demonic interest? Again, it's like, I don't know, right? If she really is possessed by a demon, that demon knows that exorcism is the biggest threat to it. And that demon is saying, stick with the exorcisms. There's a lot of inconsistencies here. It sounds a lot like Anneliese, though, and something Anneliese would have said. Remember, she's mentally disturbed. She was delusional. She was steeped in religious upbringing, and she had this self-harming kind of sacrificial martyrdom thing going on. So for her to, and she was sick of all the meds too.
Yeah.
So it does sound like her, but it sounds like it sounds like something Anneliese would say under her condition at the time.
Yeah.
So that's the case for demonic possession, such as it is. But what besides demonic possession could have caused the turmoil that Anneliese went through? Of course, the obvious thing is epilepsy, temporal lobe epilepsy. And she had the seizures. Once she had that second seizure, as I mentioned, she was diagnosed officially with temporal lobe epilepsy. And this variety of epilepsy causes seizures, it causes memory loss, but also causes visual, and audio hallucinations. Another specific symptom of the temporal lobe epilepsy that Anneliese did experience is olfactory hallucinations. I didn't know that.
Oh.
So they're called, phenomenal name, called phantasmia. That's smelling things, smell hallucinations effectively. So Anneliese claimed that she started smelling like just these horrible stenches, and usually they were not perceived by others. So they chalk that up as an olfactory hallucination, which is explainable by temporal lobe epilepsy. Later on, by the way, I won't get into it, but she also maybe had some real smells other people smelled, but it was a very human physical cause of those smells, and it's kind of gross.
Ooh.
So
you want to know something?
What?
I think I have olfactory hallucinations.
Do you really? What do you smell?
The toast thing. burning toast,
so you're having a
which
stroke.
is a sign of a stroke. And
great news.
Clearly, I
Okay.
haven't had a stroke.
Let's stop the podcast right now and take you to a doctor. No?
No, I'm
All right.
smelling it now.
Okay.
And cigarette smoke.
You smell cigarette smoke?
Yeah.
Huh.
Not
Weird.
all the time, but just
Huh.
occasionally.
Maybe that's a memory. You were raised by smokers.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
either.
But sometimes
Good thing
it's
I
like, I don't feel like I'm breathing in smoke, but I just smell it. And it's at places where I know there's no cigarette
that's
smoke.
my next
like,
question.
Like
Yeah.
our own home.
Is it? But could you be on the backyard and just wafting over from 4 houses down or
No.
something like that?
Uh-uh.
Okay. Huh.
Next
That's
time it happens,
Okay. Come get me.
I'll tell you.
Yes, so I can
But yeah.
smell and see if I don't tell me what you're smelling, and I'll just tell you what I smell.
And I don't like it. I mean,
Well, no,
obviously,
no one-
because I
no
don't
one
like
does
the
except
smell of cigarette
smokers.
smoke. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a given. Smoking is
But, yeah.
vile.
But I don't think I have temporal lobe
I don't think you do either. I think
epilepsy.
you are possibly going to have a stroke, though. Maybe you have a lot of mini
Don't
strokes.
say that.
Oh, okay, sorry. Interestingly, temporal lobe epilepsy also causes something called Geschwind syndrome. That's an effect that causes extreme religiosity, and
Really?
often leads to also could lead to the sufferer like withdrawing from human contact and intimacy. Again, these are two things that were exhibited by Anneliese. Remember the grand mal seizure that's now called the tonic-clonic seizures, and they also help perfectly, describe what was happening to Anneliese, because those seizures can cause some symptoms like that trance-like state, and also the bedwetting your bladder releases that she suffered from. So again, it fits with that diagnosis. So temporal lobe epilepsy, basically, in a nutshell, causes more or less precisely the group of behaviors that Anneliese displayed, but it is also to say that everything she experienced, that she, her family, and her priest could also interpret that as demonic possession,
Right.
just hallucinations, voices, things like that. To them, that sounds like there's a demon in her.
What
To
if
the
you're-
doctor, it sounds like temporal lobe epilepsy.
What if you're not religious to begin with?
Yeah. Clearly her religiosity channeled this into a religious answer. There's no question that was part of what's going on
But
here, I
so,
think.
do people who have that who aren't religious
I don't know.
have
I don't know.
the same kind of?
I
And how do
mean,
they
if you're
choose
not
which
religious, I
religion
don't see
to-
how. If you do think I'm demonic possessed, you're probably more religious than you're saying you are. Let's be our
No.
don't like that. What do you
The
mean?
whole extreme religiosity for
yes,
people
that's
who-
a possible side effect
Yeah. from
temporal lobe, that specific kind of temporal lobe epilepsy.
So if you don't already belong to a religion and you have it, I wonder what do you?
That's interesting. I don't
What
know.
religion? Do you
That would be weird.
do?
Suddenly you're like hyper religious, like super religious.
And how would you know?
I know.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Like,
'Cause
I
everyone
wouldn't
thinks
know how
that-
to be hyper religious.
All epileptics have seizures. That's not true. There are many
Yeah.
epileptics who do not have seizures at
Mhm.
all. So I don't know. I would say this, though. Maybe temporal lobe epilepsy doesn't explain everything. Maybe temporal lobe epilepsy doesn't explain all cases of demonic possession.
Yeah.
But gosh, it sure sounds like it explains a lot of them. And specifically for this one, it is clearly a very good fit for
Yeah.
what Anneliese experienced. So
I mean, there are probably other, maybe not something as well defined as epilepsy,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just another mental illness.
for sure.
Some
no
sort
question.
of delusions and Yeah.
I'm sure that in this case, though, she was diagnosed
Yeah.
years before
yeah.
they thought she was demonically possessed. So cultural anthropologist named Felicitas Goodman, she studied the case and she published a book in 1981. And, her conclusion was not the medical one, but it also wasn't the demonic possession one. You could argue that, there's a saying about governments that where you stand is where you sit, that you tend to espouse the policies of your discipline, I guess. So she's an anthropologist, a cultural anthropologist. So she didn't see it as medical and she didn't see it as religious. She saw it as essentially psychological, anthropological. She wrote, quote, "There is sufficient evidence to support the contention that Anneliese was indeed not sick, that she was not an epileptic, that what looked to the uninformed like symptoms of a disease were actually manifestations of a religious experience," end quote. So she essentially said she wasn't literally possessed by devils, but it was a religious experience that caused these things to do. She said that she centered the cause on, quote, "mystical and religious experience," end quote, that essentially resulted in altered states of consciousness. That it was a not epilepsy causing these things, but her own, religious, mystical experience from her upbringing and all the different details that we've gone into before. So she saw it as something, kind of a third option, I guess, if you want to say that.
Based on
her assessment of the case. Yeah, she never met her, obviously.
But she's not a medical professional. There's no way she can negate a medical diagnosis based on anything.
So you see what's happening. The religiously disposed saw the cause centered in the religious world. The anthropologist saw the cause centered in her own world. And you could argue that, to be fair, that those in the medical field saw the cause in a medical condition, right, in the medical world.
But only one has science behind
exactly.
it.
I mean, that's the key difference, is that the science, the medical answer is testable, is based on hard science. Anneliese did indeed suffer from temporal lobe epilepsy. She had she had EEG tests and other readings, and they indicated that she did have this, and she was diagnosed back in 1969, I believe, with temporal lobe epilepsy. There's Goodman points out there was some of the EEGs are a little bit ambiguous because they didn't show all of the things associated with epilepsy, but there's lots of epileptic cases that don't show all of those signs, as others have pointed out.
Yeah.
So for her to simply just refute the diagnosis of multiple medical professionals is pretty arrogant, I would argue.
It's irresponsible.
Yeah.
And I would say, sure, I might agree with what she's saying as a possible cause of somebody to think they're possessed by demons.
Yeah.
But not...
You know what? And she's probably right in many cases.
Exactly,
a lot of demonic possessions are just kind of this religious condition, this religious experience.
Yeah.
And that's how they channel it, and that's how they interpret it, but not in this case.
But also, I think in those cases, it's gone beyond and it's entered the realm of mental illness.
In this case, no question. In this case, it has as well. In this case, we know that she did, and at least did suffer from severe psychosis in the last few years, especially. There's no question. So for her, it was a combination. She had temporal lobe epilepsy. She also had this deteriorating mental state as well. So then maybe the epilepsy was the root cause, and she was channeling it through her upbringing and her past and her belief system. That's fairly simple. That's the most likely. That would be my argument for what exactly happened here. Not six demons.
Really,
although
you don't
Lucifer,
think Hitler became a demon? And
Hitler's for sure a demon, no question whatsoever. I just don't know if he had time for Anneliese back in 1975. That's all I'm saying. The milieu, again, is very critical. You have this ultra-religious, stifling home background and all that kind of stuff. So I think it does. She saw this world through these really conservative Catholic lenses, and so she turned it into her own self. Again, we take them at their word. Anneliese herself believed that she was possessed by demons. But I think she wanted to believe, because remember, she wanted to sacrifice, wanted to save others. And this is a great way to do exactly that in a big way. So Anneliese kind of wanted to save souls. She wanted to be, she probably wanted to be somewhat special. So,
but also she was suffering.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
With her other illness. Yeah. And so she probably...
Her illness, the mental illness or her epilepsy?
All of it.
Okay. Yeah. Anneliese was buried in a plot in a cemetery. Her gravesite was right next to Martha's, her older sister.
Mm-hmm.
This site, though, was at the very edge, the perimeter of the cemetery, because that was the area where you're allowed to bury illegitimate children, as well as those who committed suicide. And so, therefore, their soul was damned, or at least in danger. Right. I'm not sure which of those the family thought she was, or maybe they just want to make sure she kept Martha company.
Yeah.
I don't know. A hardcore group of super conservative Catholics saw Anneliese as kind of a holy person at the time and afterward, and that she was this Catholic who sacrificed for the greater good, and did this remarkable thing and suffered in this remarkable way. But they believe she really did atone for sinners, and for some reason they wayward priest, she was atoning for wayward priests. Remember, one of her demonic possessors was this wayward priest.
Yeah.
So they felt that she was atoning for those kind of people. I guess also remember the drug addicts in the train station.
Yeah.
So in early 1978, a nun told Anneliese Michel that she, the nun, had a vision. She saw Anneliese, and she saw her body, and it was completely uncorrupted. There's no decay. It was pristine. And that she felt, hey, that's proof that the demonic possession was real. And she told this to Anna's mom, who desperately wanted to continue to believe that the demonic possession was real. So Anna never doubted it, that she was possessed. So she took this vision and she kind of schemed to get her daughter exhumed. She said that she wanted to bury her in a new coffin. It had this lead-lined, nice oak coffin, and I guess she's buried in, I don't know, a cheap coffin at the time. So she asked for permission to dig her up and swap coffins.
Yeah.
And so she was dug up in February 25th, 1978. That's just a little bit under 20 months after she had died. And they did indeed do exactly that. And the parents were there, the family was there, the officials were there as well to witness this. And all involved agreed and saw that her body had deteriorated, had decomposed a certain amount, very much in line with how long she'd been buried. And her body was not pristine by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't like completely rotted, but it was clearly decomposed to the right amount given that 20-month interval.
I mean, I think she misconstrued what the nun was saying.
No, she didn't.
The nun was literally saying her body was
pristine and was perfect and it would never decompose. As soon as this was over and she was exhumed, immediately rumors started circulating that her body was absolutely pristine and uncorrupted whatsoever, and that everybody else was lying. I thought she was
just saying she had a vision of her or something.
So
in the afterlife, she's
in real life
normal.
Her body's uncorrupted, and you dug it up. It was not. So what do? You say it was. Well, and it's a conspiracy theory.
I think this nun needs a diagnosis too. Then.
Whoa, Carrie is going after the nuns now. She's already gone after the priest. Now she's gone after the nuns. You're not making friends in the hardcore Catholic world, Carrie.
I'm okay with that.
To this day, there are those who still venerate Anneliese and they visit her gravesite. They're like buses come in from Holland and they go to her gravesite and they talk to her, they pray, they sing songs, and they leave a lot of notes, some asking for, like, making requests. Like, Anneliese, can you intercede for me and take, do something that I want done? Or some who believe she already helped them, leave little thank you notes, say, hey, you nailed it. Thank you for asking God.
Yes, so I'm surprised that a case hasn't been made for sainthood. You know
what? It's funny you say that, because there have been 3 movies made about that have been sort of inspired from Anneliese's story.
Yeah.
It's called Requiem. One's called Anneliese, The Exorcist Tapes, very loosely based. And there's The Exorcism of Emily Rose. That movie is supposedly at least just sort of vaguely inspired by what happened, because it focuses on a court case for a priest is on trial because he conducted an exorcism of Emily Rose and she died. The exorcism is in one day. It's not over 10 months, but again, it's called Emily Rose, not Anneliese Michel.
Yeah.
And Laura Linney plays the lawyer who is defending him. This was released in 2005. So it's not really, it's sort of inspired from Anneliese at most. It was a critical success, but it did make like $144 million. The director's on board saying, I thought it'd make more than that. It had like a $19 million budget and it grossed $144. It made a lot of money. Yeah. So it did very well.
Was there a book written earlier than
it was based
that?
Very loosely on Felicitas Goodman's book about the exorcism of Anneliese Michel. At least that's what they attribute to. They probably gave her a little bit of money for rights to it. But again, as you can see, it had virtually nothing to do with the actual case. But not calling her
Emily Rose.
And not really staying. Really, it took a priest on trial for someone dying to an exorcism. That's about it.
Because this is probably the Mandela effect, but I remember an Exorcism of Emily Rose movie way before 2005.
Maybe it's a different one, like Exorcism of someone else. Because I think there's been other movies called The Exorcism of blankety blank.
Oh, so
I'm pretty sure there has.
Maybe I'm just conflating
Probably.
I'm going to look it up.
Well, this one got a 44% Rotten Tomatoes and a 46 on Metacritic. So it was a critical meh at best. But it was, again, a box office success.
We never saw it, right? I
haven't seen it, no. Many critics actually cited that it was pretty stilted toward a religious answer. It was kind of didactic at times. That was one of the criticisms of it. Because at the end, one of the characters, I suggest that Emily Rose, a.k.a. Anneliese Michel, is headed for sainthood.
Oh.
So that's why your segue was very good. So there are people like that in the very, very hardcore, like that really conservative Catholic set that do venerate her. I don't think there's any movement to make her a saint, but there's folks who would not disagree with that. Anna Michel and her family And many of those close to her never stopped believing that she really was truly, literally possessed by a demon or 6 demons. And in 2013, Anneliese Michel, her mom, gave an interview to Telegraph newspaper, and she insisted all the way along that I did everything right. I did exactly what I should have done. She was possessed. I tried to save her. It didn't work.
Yeah.
She said that her biggest thing was that Anneliese had exhibited stigmata. So she said, I know that we did the right thing because I saw the sign of Christ in her hands. She was bearing stigmata, and that was a sign from God that we should exorcise the demons. She died to save other souls to atone for their sins, end quote. So she's convinced herself. I mean, that's what she has to do to get by, I imagine. But she claimed to believe that throughout her life. Of course, again, to go back to the science of possession, it's not hard to do that. And where Anneliese was in her head, that's exactly something she would have done to herself. It a little tiny sharp object is all it takes. For a time after Anneliese's death, the Catholic Church discouraged exorcisms and kind of came down harder than the German Catholics, particularly. They were very loath to allow exorcisms for a long time after what happened to Anneliese. Even after Pope Benedict the 16th, I didn't know this. He actually made a statement essentially saying we should do more exorcisms. I didn't know that. And even then, the German church didn't for a long time. It took 20 years, but finally in 1999, the Catholic Church officially revised its exorcism rite to expressly, quote, forbid exorcisms on people who are believed to have been subjected to evil spells, curses, and or are mentally ill. A thorough medical examination is essential.
So they're saying evil spells and curses are real things.
But you have to be examined by a doctor.
Okie dokie.
So a little bit of good, a little bit of weird. So despite this, though, and since then, exorcisms these days have exploded.
Great.
They are huge. The Vatican currently requires that every diocese have at least one priest who can both diagnose if someone is legitimately demonically possessed and then perform an exorcism on that person. Every diocese has to have one of those, such a priest who's trained like that.
Huh.
Demand for exorcisms have skyrocketed. Not just the Catholic world, the Pentecostals and evangelicals are doing it too. Nowadays, in Italy, up to 500,000 people a year request an exorcism.
But they don't all get one.
Not all of those do. There aren't enough priests to do it.
Yeah.
But there's massive demand for exorcism. So what's the Catholic Church? It's all about meeting demand with supply. Since 2005, the Catholic Church has been running a school for exorcists every year. They have a week-long course in Rome every year. It's called Exorcism and the Prayer of Liberation. It costs about €300. It's in Rome, so I'm assuming that they don't pay for your travel either. But some years have as many as 250 priests attending.
Wow.
They come over the years. They've come from 50 different countries to learn how to be a better exorcist. They like trade stories. They network. They hear different accounts of priests who have conducted exorcisms, like the lessons they learn from that, and they take all kinds of courses on the proper practices of conducting an exorcism. I imagine that Anneliese Michel's story is not part of the curriculum, in all likelihood.
Well,
but that's going on right now.
What not to do? Maybe.
I doubt it. I think they just want to forget that ever happened.
Well.
We're not going to forget that here at Weird World. That's where we brought to you the 2-part story of the 67 exorcism of Anneliese Michel. I hope you enjoyed it, ? But it is pretty fascinating. It's a terrible story. It's a very sad story.
Yes.
But it's a story that I think is necessary to tell because it's a warning. I mean, there's other cases, I didn't go into them, but there are lots of other cases where people have been harmed during these some kind of exorcist ritual. People have suffocated and things like that. So
just the
people
fact,
have died.
Just the fact, if you are a religious person and you're a Catholic person, just the fact that your church is validating your delusion, let's say it like it most likely is, is harmful in and of itself.
More likely, though, the parent's delusion, which is what happens in a lot of these cases, right? Especially it's the parents who think their child is. That's happened multiple times. I'm assuming
it's not always
I haven't looked it up right now. It's not always children, but frequently it is children, and children have died undergoing exorcisms that their parents insisted upon.
Yeah.
And that's horrible and dangerous and scary and frightening. It shouldn't happen, but it has. So that's part of why I wanted to to talk about this. Hopefully, if you're thinking about exercising your child and it doesn't involve jogging and light weightlifting, then you should not, because you can hurt them.
No, you
very
should take them
badly.
to a doctor.
Take them to a doctor. Trust that, not so much the other stuff. That would be my argument.
And, if you're a Catholic priest listening to this podcast, because I'm sure we have many Catholic priest listeners,
I think we probably
stop
do.
it.
Stop
Stop it.
doing it. Stop doing it. Yeah, I know it. First of all, if it's real, the holy water is going to burn them, and they're going to have scars for the rest of their life, even after the demons leave their body. That's not good.
Yeah.
Just lure them out.
The number one, what's it called? Commandment for priests should be do no harm.
Yes, it should. That's a good one. I
mean,
like that.
That should be the number one thing for everybody.
You should be you should be the Pope.
In
in
every
this,
walk
I
of
think.
life, in every job that you have, do no harm.
You're a fallen Catholic. I think you can handle it. You can be the next Pope.
I could.
You should throw your hat in the ring next time. I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying. So thank you for
Probably
listening.
don't meet all the requirements.
Probably not. Thank you for listening to again, and we'll have something for you. We'll try to have something more uplifting. So remember that.
I hope so.
We
It's
will.
going to have to be done by me.
Well, not necessarily. Okay. And,
Also, bless you all.
okay, that's weird. That's a weird way to end it, but thank you. Okay.
I didn't say blessed by whom or
Okay.
what.
All right. All right. Until next time.